fellow shop rats. It's another Talk About It Tuesday, and today we're going to talk about my preservation philosophy. This is going to be a fun one. Don't go away. I'm Mike, and this is My Car Shop. I'm just out cruising around in Wanda today, hauling home a big load of firewood, and thought, there's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and today it's beautiful, and I thought it'd be a great day to talk about my preservation philosophy. I guess it's been on my mind because I've been working on the Forsyth Duster, and as you know, we're not restoring that car. We're doing a preservation project, and that's a little different than a restoration. So let's talk about that. Our philosophy about preservation is different than restoration by a lot. When you're restoring a car, you're trying to put it back to its former glory, what it was like when it was new. And when you're customizing a car, you're taking that car and doing what you want to do with it in many ways and modifying it and doing all of that stuff. But in preservation, we're really taking a much different attitude and approach. Preservation is really trying to capture the history of the car. That means there's scars, there's bumps, and there's bruises, and there's just stuff that's happened to that car over the years. And it's kind of like taking it and just putting it in a time capsule and saying, we're going to put it at this time in its life. Our approach with the Forsyth Duster is twofold. We don't want to take away from what the car was when Bob Forsyth was racing that car on a regular basis up until he stopped driving it in the early 80s. The car, when it was parked, was very nice. The interior was good. There was very little rust except for the quarter panels, which Bob had patched up. And the car was solid as could be. But over the last 40 years, as it's been sitting around waiting to have something done with it, it's deteriorated tremendously. No fault of anybody's. There's no blame in that. I mean, that's what happens. And I'm glad because it gives me something to do.
But I need something to do.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that Duster was showroom pristine condition. That thing had been rode hard and put away wet. I mean, it was a drag car, and it had been dragged and beat and dragged and beat and went through a couple engines and was finally taken out of commission when the transmission, basically the tail shaft, exploded and broke, and Bob opted for a different car at that point and built another Duster and took the motor out of this one. Now, we have the original engine. The motor that Bob took out of this car was actually a crate motor, if I remember right. He took the crate motor out and put that in the orange car, but maybe not, maybe it was the other way. But anyway, we have the original motor, so it's cool because the only thing we're going to change on this car, and that's just for a practicality usability standpoint, is we're going to put a 4-speed in it instead of the 3-speed. Yes, we have the numbers matching 3-speed. We definitely have enough 3-speed transmissions around that we could fix it, but we're opting to not do that and go 4-speed because you still want to have fun with the car and drive it. But we're really trying to capture the whole history of the car. So it's not just as it was when it was drag raced, but also we want to capture some of the flavor of its neglect and what had kind of happened to it. So we're not going to go through and paint the car. We're going to leave it with some of its surface rust here and there. We're going to definitely fix up the quarter panels because it's really deteriorated in that area. And of course we have to put floor pans in it because we're not Fred Flintstone. For me on this car, and it might not be the same on another car, but for me on this one, it's capturing its entire 54-year, almost 55-year history and preserving all of that from the time it was basically new. When Bob got it, he drove it 1 year on the road, and that was it. It was raced the rest of its life. From capturing that to what it was like when we hauled it home and pieces were flying off on the side of the road because it was rusty so bad. Don't misunderstand me. I don't plan on having pieces fly off the car when we're driving it around, but I do want to preserve the entire story of the Forsyth Duster, and that's going to have to include the last 40 years of its life, not just the first 22 years of its life. 22 years? 18 years, whatever it was, from 1970 to 1982. What is that? I guess that's 12 years. I don't know. It's maths and stuff. Part of the preservation process is going to be either locating or getting printed all of those custom vintage stickers that were on the car. Amazing stickers. We're going to redo the, I call it hardware store lettering that's stuck on the front fender where it says, what does it say there? I don't remember what it says there, but it says something there. And all the way to the Bad Axe. Maybe that says Bad Axe radiator there. I don't remember. Whatever it says on the front fender, we're going to replace those letters where needed. The back fender, on the quarter panel, the hand-lettered painting. One side is really good. The other side needs work, so we're going to preserve that, replicate it, and hand paint that on the other side. That part of that car to me is important to bring back more the feel of what the car was like when Bob was last campaigning that car. We're going to fix quarter panels. We'll either use some patch panels that I already have, or we will fabricate some things because the patches that Bob put on there from the years of being on the strip from the chloride rotting them off. That was back in the day when they used chloride on the track, and it just played havoc on cars and caused a lot of rust problems. We feel we want to, put that back closer to what it was like somewhere mid-campaign before Bob put those patches on the car. And he did that for a very specific reason. I'll have to tell you that story sometime. I've got to talk to the family again and refresh my own mind on it before I share it with you. This car is just loaded with amazing history, and we want to just time capsule that thing and all 54 years of its life, 55 years of its life. We want to be represented in what we present when the car is completed. There's a whole lot more to this story than I have shared with you yet, and I'm excited to share all of that with you, but it won't be until the car is pretty much done. So it's going to be a while, but it's pretty cool, and you're going to think it's amazing when you hear the whole story. So stick around the channel for that, if nothing else. The questions to ask as far as I'm concerned is, when you're doing a preservation, how far do you want to go? Obviously, safety issues have to be taken care of. We have to make it safe. We want to make it done. We're going to go have fun with it. But how far are we going? Are we going to campaign the car? Are we going to race it again? Are we going to take it back to its like new condition, which is basically a restoration? What direction are we going? And this was the way I decided to handle this one, is just capture all of its life as much as possible. People that have known and seen the car, people over the decades who've tried to buy the car, will be able to see the car and go, holy crap, that's amazing. That's really amazing what's been done with that car. I guarantee it, if anybody else had ended up with this thing, this is not what would be happening. And I think that would be a crying shame. And that's part of the story of how I ended up with it, because of what I'm choosing to do with it. Teaser, teaser. It's funny because what I'm doing on the Foresight is actually not much different than what I'm going to be doing cosmetically on the Golden Mullet. I really don't plan to do much to that car. There's one fender that needs some work. We will either fix or replace. I will paint that to match the rest of the car. Anything that's flying or falling off the car, we're obviously going to take care of. But for the most part, I plan to leave all of that patina on that car intact. Now, underneath it's going to be much different, because as you've heard me say before, maybe you haven't if you're new here on the channel, the Golden Mullet is going to basically be a tube chassis, supercharged 426 wedge car. And we have everything, almost everything, that we need to build that car, including all of the huge steel we need to build the chassis table, to build the chassis. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So that's a different kind of thing, but I really want to preserve that. Part of it is it's the Golden Mullet, right? So, like the nerdy haircut and the fish. It's a tribute, tongue-in-cheek parody car for the Silver Bullet. And you've heard that probably before also, but again, a lot of new viewers here on the channel, so I want to convey the bigger picture of that car as well. But we're preserving that one cosmetically, but everything else is going to be out the window and up in smoke and big high holy, oh. Here's your homework assignment. Why don't you drop it down there in the comments? What do you see would be important to you? Not what should I do. What would be important to you if you were to do a preservation on a vehicle? What would your goal be? What would your mindset be? What would your approach be? That may vary depending on the car, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. All right, that'll do it for this one. We will catch you on the next one. And don't forget, because it's really important.
Roar!